Oh, wow. All right. Welcome to yet another Marketwatch Safehouse live stream. This is your host, Safehouse Paul from the trading team here. Yeah, hope you guys had a wonderful weekend rolling into Trump's inauguration. That was really fun trading around that. And it is day 2.5. Just about to start day 3 of Trump's return to the Oval Office. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are happily hunting away, knocking out those TPs. Yeah, just a few as usual, as we always do. Please note that all information from this live stream is for educational and, I suppose, for some entertainment purposes only, and does not constitute financial advice. I will be going through some of the key highlights that me and my team have been watching. And yeah, you know, might even jump into the markets if there are opportunities. We are currently 8:11 a.m. Eastern in the US. I'm not in the US, I'm in Asia, but it is currently 8:11 a.m. in the US. Oh god, this audio is really loud for me. Let me just pipe it down a little bit. Okay, let me know in the chat if the audio is too loud. But yes, at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, I believe, there is the regular unemployment claims coming out. Previously it was 217,000. This is a weekly thing, so it's nothing, you know, out of the ordinary. And then of course the forecast is for it to inch up ever so slightly to 221k. So that's coming out in 18 minutes. I don't expect there to be a lot of volatility around that. However, at 11 a.m. Eastern, did I get that time conversion right? Yes, at about 11 a.m. Eastern, President Trump will be speaking. And I think if you've been, you know, keeping up with what's going on in the markets, it would seem that, you know, that he would have plenty to say, right? So let me just start off real quick. I'm watching a couple of things now that Trump has come to office. Primarily, for those of you who've been keeping up, I primarily look at Euro-Dollar because I've been trading that for well over 10 years. But I wanted to spice up life a little bit coming out of the institutional format. So I have started looking at the SPX, or the S&P 500, at the behest of one of our traders. I've also started looking at futures, and then of course gold and dollar yen as a comfort zone. But DXY is one of the ones that I really like looking at. And as you can see, the support level 107.5, right, has panned out very nicely. We bounced off twice now, the 618 from the FIP pull from this surge down. And of course, this surge down was right off the bat of Trump's inauguration pre-New York, right? Trump was inaugurated or sworn in at about noon on Monday. So noon would be about here. Yeah, so we saw this wee little spike up, secondary spike thereafter. This is the evening of, let's see, this morning my time, so that's the end of day for Monday. Yeah, key point is that it's bounced off the 618 twice now, and and the greenback is currently looking to try and hold. 107.5 fell under earlier today during London, right? And is now trying to reclaim that territory. If not, then that would be a minor correction for the US dollar. Cool. Over on euro dollar, let's have a look here. Things have been going decently well. We are charging forward since we last spoke. I think the last time we spoke was somewhere around here, because I forgot to change the date on. I forgot to change the date on the title. I'm sorry. But yeah, the last stream we did was on the 15th, and that's right around here. Yeah. So we made this call. This is a really fun trade. Good stuff. This red line that you see here for euro dollar essentially is projecting the what do we call it? The barrel down towards parity. But since euro dollar has fought its way out of it, and that was right around the last stream, as you can see here, please ignore all the random lines. This is on the daily level, so you know they all get squished together. But yeah, we've claimed previous highs, and we are, you know, ever more so trying to inch upwards. Let's zoom in a little bit. So this was resistance that was created right around here. I think I drew this. When did I draw this? I drew this earlier today, I think. No, I drew this some time back. Yeah, can't remember. Anyway, we've reclaimed it, double top, retraced back down, and we have back tested it. So euro dollar has been behaving pretty well. The question now is, you know, will the euro dollar continue to push forward? And that is, of course, if the DXY continues to trace down, right? DXY, as we saw earlier, failed to reclaim this. Why is this here? Oh yeah, because I haven't removed the fib. Oh my god. Yep, so this is now resistance. And if the DXY continues to trace downwards, right, and lose ground to the bears, then yeah, that would produce a solid push up, right? So that's possibly one of the things we want to see today. Dollar yen, of course, follows very closely to DXY, not barring the point that it factors in the yen. I'm watching this primarily because of the yen carry. And we are also tracking Ueda's moves alongside Powell's moves, right? Yeah. And then, of course, SPX and NASDAQ looking very similar. I've got a pretty heavy level of resistance at 6,087. These are the OR levels, 6,022 to 6,037 from yesterday. And, of course, you know, there was no look back, right? So a lot of the question was, you know, what is up, what is going on with this rally, and we'll get a little bit into that, right? Yeah, so that's your very quick market snapshot of where we are now. Nvidia is back to 140, so that's nice to see. Now it's it tapered down quite a fair bit, I believe. Yeah, here we are there. So yeah, looking to, especially with today's announcement, you know, there's a lot of revitalized optimism around AI, which we'll get into in a sec. And of course, one of my favorite ones to look at is this one, but I need to adjust it. And it's gonna mess up my entire trading view. I don't know how to lock this. Yeah, but this is essentially US interest rates, right? Against the ZQ. So effectively, every time there's a delta in the ZQ, then that's generally when they start cutting rates. Yeah, when the delta goes negative, that's when they start cutting rates. So Now the question is, can the ZQ delta push above, right? So this is something I'm watching quite closely as well. Right, so as you can see here, interest rates are... Wait, did I just say that wrongly? Yeah, no, I didn't. Yeah. So as you can see, interest rates were like this, and then when we dipped negative, then they started cutting it aggressively. Of course, during the pandemic, the ZQ delta blitzed up, and naturally what happens then is interest rates get hiked, right, to combat inflation, and then over time we've trended under. The Fed held interest rates steady, and of course now the ZQ delta is under in negative territory. It has indeed retraced back to very close to the zero mark, and therefore the contention then is, will we continue cutting? Had a quick look at the terminal the other day. Generally for the upcoming interest rate decision by the Fed, and that's coming up on at 2 p.m. Eastern, January 29th. Market expectations are for it to hold at 4.25 to 4.25 and 4.5%. And that is very likely. Markets are priced in about, it's quite a scary number. I'm not going to skip it, but primarily it's 99.7% apparently. I didn't believe it when I saw the number, but okay, sure. Don't take my word for it. But yeah, I take it as it is likely that they would pause, let the dust settle now that Trump has come back into power, before making the next move, right? So okay, this is a snapshot. I will take a picture of this. This doesn't shift all that frequently, so yeah, I'll take a picture of this later from the stream VOD. But yes, let me get back to my regular view. Turn off this, reset this. There we are. Okay, Bitcoin. I got back into trading, taking positions on Bitcoin. Personally, I looked at it on a more long-term high time frame basis, but I got back into intraday trading it since Trump came back, because as you know, Trump is what do you call that? Very crypto-friendly president, right? And so one would expect very decent moves. One of those moves was this one from yesterday, I believe. Is this yesterday? Tuesday? Is it Wednesday today? Yes, it's Wednesday today. Yeah. So this was yesterday's ORs. We had an initial break. We came back. We fought to stay above it, and then after it was secondary push up. So this bounced back from VWAP and the support. Oh, I remember I was trading with the Bitcoin pod yesterday, and yeah, we were talking about how some of them missed the VWAP thing, and I was like, hey guys, we've been talking about 1026 over on X as well as within Discord as support for some time. That's been a key area for me to watch. But yeah, that was pretty good. I didn't jump in at the support either, but for me, I got in after we re-entered OR, and that push up was very, very nice. Also, you can go check out on X. We did a post about Jan 13 to Jan 20th. That was when Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy were aggressively buying up Bitcoin, averaging at about 101, I believe. I gotta go look at the post again. I can't remember now. Go have a quick look. Yeah, because it was trending on X, right? Like 11,000 Bitcoins were acquired by MicroStrategy at 101.191 per Bitcoin average. The point was that it came out, the news hit X yesterday, And when I saw it, it was about an hour ago. And a lot of the language was as though like just an hour ago they've acquired 11,000 BTCs, and immediately I went to look at the Bitcoin chart and I was like, well, I don't see a Bitcoin roaring to the moon yet, and that's because if you look into the acquisition report that was put out by MicroStrategy, these acquisitions were made between January 13th and January 20th, right? So what does that look like? Let me just zoom it out a little bit. That, my friends, is January 13, which is here. See this? And I've said this for the third time. Jeff, one of our traders in the Safehouse community, I promised you for a very long time that I had an order at 88888.8, and it just front run me just by that little bit, right? So unfortunately, my position didn't get taken here, right? But yeah, so we're talking about Jan 13th all the way to Jan 20th, which is when what do you call it? Trump was inaugurated and sworn in as the 47th president of the United States. So you see this entire rally right here? Yeah, a lot of that was produced by, oh dear, Michael Saylor. So that's quite interesting. 100k yellow line, psychological level, panned out very, very nicely. Had it there for quite some time. This I should change. I've been lazy. I've been just leaving it in the same color, but technically these are support and resistance zones that I've been using for a long time now. And yeah, since January 20th, I started intraday trading Bitcoin, and it's been good. It's been good. It's been fun. So given that Trump's going to be talking later today at, what time did I say again? 11 a.m. Eastern. Yeah, I would expect some movement at least. But okay, one of the other things that we did for our members. So if you guys are interested, you are sick and tired of trading alone, or going for streams or joining communities that are very noisy and they've got people validating their opinions by posting pictures of profits, and you just want a more focused environment that's a lot more focused on trading, making market calls, and navigating uncertainty day in, day out, but most importantly a community that operates as a team, then yeah, that's why we launched the Safehouse community, and you can take part, or you can join it for free by using the link in the description below. We've got a free trial for the Safehouse Access Pass right now. The paid version is $8 a month, so it's stupidly cheap. And yeah, that gives you access to the traders in the Safehouse team, as well as our independent traders, our growing community of independent traders who are on station just about every other day. And yeah, we share trade ideas, we watch each other's backs, and we lock in gains together. So if you're sick and tired of trading alone, do give that a go. And if you do, do hit me up when you've joined us on Discord. So yeah. All right. What do I want to go through? Yes. So before I get into what's going on down the vine, we put out a report for a macro sit rep for the trading community. And I would like to go through that real quick. Let me just switch it. There we are now. Cool. Okay. The screen's a little wonky, but can I move this? No. Oh wait, no, this is the old one. Whoops. Oh, sorry. No, that was the next one. But okay, I'll just read it out because it's too much to adjust on the stream deck. Let me fire it up. Actually, can Can I put this in my window? Not sure. Anyway, yeah, the PDF is available for download. So if you want it, I'll send it to you. Or join the Discord and download the rest of them on your own. But okay, so the first things first was that at noon, primary markets in the US were closed because of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. But we were watching Bitcoin USDT. That was the push up and the push back down on Bitcoin, which I believe was here. Right. Oh, let's see. Already 9:30. Cool. Let's see the results of the unemployment claims. Is it out yet? Was it not out yet? Is it out yet? Is it out here? Oh. Is it tomorrow? Oh wow, it is tomorrow. Okay, thank goodness. Yeah. Wait, today is the 20th. Today's the 22nd. Right. So okay, Trump is not speaking today. Trump is speaking tomorrow. Fantastic. My bad. I'm sorry. I have got my dates all jumbled up, but that's fine. Let me share with you guys. Well, since that happened, let me see if I can punch this up on... Oh no, I can't. Can I view in... Can I view in browser? I can. Ah. Alright. There, can you guys see it? Okay, looks like ass, but that's fine. At least it works. Can I move it? I can't. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, impact of Trump 2.0 Day 1 agenda. We put this out on the 21st. Let's go through it. So this was what we were looking at. Some of the moves. This is the coil from the push-up that we were watching. And of course, this was way before. This was Monday 10 a.m. Asia time, right? So this was Asia AM session. There was a massive push-up. And of course, there was a blip down, I think, the moment he started talking. Yeah, so that was pretty interesting to watch. Bitcoin rejected off SR zone at 107. That's that box that we drew. Plunged 4.8% as Trump was being sworn in, retesting 102.5 as support, right? So that's the level that we were talking about earlier. This was a complete correction of the prior move up to form a new all-time high at 109K earlier during Asia PM session. So, okay, cool. And then, of course, Bitcoin thereafter backtested the 100K psychological level during pre-Asia on Jan 21st before pushing back up to retest 102.636. So now you start to understand a little bit about why I very much enjoy this level. Impact on DXY. Greenback fell 1.13% at pre-New York, right? And that's where we get the 107.5. Yeah, that was the double bounce from the 618. Cool. S&P, right? We also looked at the S&P, and we saw a pre-Asia on January 21st. Saw a 1.13% move to the downside, taking out Monday lows before recovering throughout the Asia session. So that was quite interesting. Key concerns of Trump, right? So the key concerns that I have are A, US sovereign debt crisis, right? Or their unsustainable government debt. Currently holding at 36.1 trillion. There's quite a fair bit about that later. Inflationary policies, so it's all the rage following his inauguration. Like the description says, Trump has been busy, right? So we're talking tariffs, immigration. There's a lot of political stuff in there, But primarily I'm trying to look at the ones that have economic impact, right? And of course, valuation risks in the S&P 500 and mega cap stocks. So to give you a feel of what I mean is, if you're looking at the SPX, right, S&P 500, which currently is holding at 60.90, looks pretty decent. It looks like just a very basic rally. But if I bring you back to the daily or even the weekly level, right, like let's go out a little bit more. Yeah, let's go to the monthly level. Can you see how much this has rallied? Let's not go so far back. Yeah, let's just go from like 2022, right? Like each month we're just pushing higher and higher, right? So it's a very, very strong rally, you know. We've had a couple of corrections. We had one, we had a small one, and then we had another one in August last year, right? So this one was in April, and this was in 23. So let's not talk about that because it's too far behind, right? But yeah, you know, I think we even had one going into 2025, but it was minor. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it's been a very, very solid rally, right? So the thing about that is, if you don't put your money in the US, where are you going to put your money in, right? So yeah, US stocks doing really well, especially with Trump coming in. Trump is the business first, pro-business, deregulation, crypto-friendly US president, right? So naturally, you know, even out here in Asia, you know, a lot of people are very optimistic about the US. Of course, if you look at a lot of his policies, they are very protectionist as well, right? Which it's natural. But yeah, you know, I think balancing, like I just gave a brief to one of our traders earlier, or at least the team, and that was essentially deregulation versus tariffs, right? Deregulation improves business, and then of course on the flip side you have tariffs that is bad for business, right? Bad for business in the sense of that, you know, things get more expensive. It is an inflationary policy if executed. You know, instead of being used just as a bargaining chip, and you know that is problematic because consumers have to pay higher costs. So these are some of the things. Immigration, of course, you know, during his campaign trail, you know, Trump has been talking about mass deportation, right? The biggest one in the history of the United States. That, yeah, and he has a tendency to, you know, blow things out the water a little bit, but yeah, you know, the major sectors that would be impacted by that are primarily hospitality, retail, construction. Yeah, so that's been quite interesting. Anyway, this is just a brief overview. I'll go through, if you guys are interested, I'll go through his day one policies, but primarily looking forward, these are the three areas, right? First is trade. So tariffs are his new favorite word. He's already put Mexico and Canada, you know, potentially on a 25% tariffs that already impacted Canada and the Mexican peso. So that just gives you a feel of what, you know, a Trump America feels like in the markets, right? When Trump is at the helm. Fun story, he did not immediately target China on day one, right? And so markets breathed a sigh of relief. And then starting day two, so that was the edit there in blue, starting day two, you know, the reprieve was short-lived. Trump then stated that a 10% tariff on all Chinese goods is still on the table, and Chinese stocks, the CSI 300, took a hit, right? So case in point, you know, this is where what the markets are like today, right? So yeah, you know, Europe is on. I didn't include it here because there was no number to it yet, but I think I posted about it on X, or perhaps it was for the trading community on Discord. In any case, Europe's on the radar as well, and but there's no number for it just yet, right? So, okay. Energy, right? Energy, Trump's stance is quite clear. He's trying to unwind a lot of Biden-era policies designed to fight climate change. He wants to look at boosting domestic energy production, right? Bolstering the gasoline automobile industry and exporting that. All right. So I think he's done away with a lot of the EV subsidies, and there are talks about, I think one of the running jokes is what do you call that? Taking out the wind farms. If they're not making a lot of money. I mean, it's pretty wild. We'll get into it later. And finally, of course, there's border, which you talked about, right? Trump's administration intends to spend more at the border, right? Mass deportation could impact several economic sectors. We covered this: hospitality, construction, and retail, and contribute to inflation, right? So, okay. Now, let's talk about the US debt ceiling. This is the shortest, it took some time to put this together, but this is the shortest summary I can put together for the US debt ceiling, right? I think, yeah, essentially, the US government owes a lot of money, okay? So, the US debt ceiling essentially approves how much the government can borrow to pay its bills, was reinstated on January 1st following a suspension, right? It currently stands at about 36.1 trillion, and that's about 15% above the debt ceiling that was 31.4. Outgoing President Biden in December signed a bill into law that averted a government shutdown, which is catastrophic, funding the US government at current levels through March 14th this year. Last Friday, outgoing Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen announced a suspension of debt issuance, right? Which is stop it, stop growing the debt. Starting January 21st, which is yesterday, through March 14, right? You can see the letter here. Ta-da! It's pretty cool, right? Like today, you can just look into a letter that Janet Yellen sent to House. But yeah, it is here. Debt issuance suspension period will begin January 21st, 2025 and last through Friday, March 14th, 2025. Right? The debt limit does not authorize new spending, but it creates a risk that the federal government might not be able to finance its existing legal obligations that Congresses and presidents of both parties have made in the past. Right? Essentially, they are way past the debt limit. Oh crap, how did I go back? There we are. Okay. Didn't account for that, but okay. So the question now is that, if let's say, this problem is not alleviated, then, it reduces global liquidity, brings about inevitable market volatility and monetary instability, right? So that's a lot of words, essentially, lots of uncertainty, okay? The question now is whether Trump's administration will be able to avert by means of raising the debt ceiling, managing it by paying off some and then cutting costs here to lower their liabilities, or as Trump prefers it, abolish the debt ceiling altogether, right? So in question last Thursday, incoming Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said he will work with Trump to ensure that the US does not default on its payments. So just like how some people, would spend more than they earn on credit, and then when the bill comes, they can't borrow more money to pay that off, then they default on their credit card loans, and then they go bankrupt, right? So yeah, that's generally what a US government default means. So what if the government defaults? There are 6 key points here. US credit rating, which has taken a hit already, I believe. Weakening of the US dollar because of the erosion in confidence. Investors would probably demand higher yields on US Treasury bonds, right? To compensate for the perceived risk in the US of further not being able to service their loans. And that would thereafter, because the people that you owe money to are asking for more interest, so that would snowball your sovereign debt, right? International trade may destabilize, right? As the reserve US dollar is the reserve currency of the world starts to weaken, and all international trade that relies on US dollar could face losses. So, for example, a company in Singapore, right? If they are selling goods or services in US dollars, right, and they have projected, let's say, $2 million to come in as revenue, and that 2 million is essentially 2 million US dollars, thereafter converted into Singapore dollars for their books. If the US dollar starts to weaken, then that shrinks, right? US Treasury's credit crunch. Financial institutions, banks holding US Treasury bonds as collateral may face margin calls or a substantial liquidity crisis due to the reduced value of their assets, right? So if your collateral, it's like if I collateralize a house, right? And let's say the house costs like $3 million, then if that house is suddenly worth $2.5 million, then, that's a problem, right? So yeah, for financial institutions, that's called a margin call, whereby you have to top up money. Google it if you're not familiar or getting into the finance scene. Weakening in the US equity market due to reduced consumer spending and rising US Treasury bond yields. We did a piece on this for the members previously, which is about the relationship. So if you want to go check that out, be sure to claim your free trial of the Safehouse Access Pass. And of course, if people don't get their interest payments, federal payments, federal job salaries like soldiers, federal government workers, and social security benefits are put on pause, then that will cause a little bit of social unrest in the US, right? So generally bad news. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about impact on inflation. I really hate doom and gloom discussions. But yes. So tariffs naturally are considered inflationary. I think if you've heard me talk about this, I've talked about this for a very long time. Corporate tax cuts are also considered inflationary, right? Because it stimulates economic activity, increases demand. Immigration policies of mass deportations and stricter immigration controls could reduce the labor supply, which could then lead to wage inflation, right? I'll give you an example out here in Asia. If let's say a lot of the foreign, I think there were 7 million people in Singapore, and about a good 1 plus 2 million maybe are foreigners. And if let's say they left, right, and a lot of the other jobs that the locals don't want to do, that the foreigners are currently doing, right? If the locals have to fill those roles, then you probably wouldn't get wages, or rather wage would naturally increase, right? Because the Singaporeans would demand for more, and naturally you get wage inflation, and that becomes a little bit of a problem. So not a problem for the people, but it contributes to inflation, right? So anyway, it's not as simple as I try to make it out to be. So managing inflation is a very complex task, right? And the impact on inflation, of course, boils down to policy implementation, potential countermeasures from the Fed, right? And finally, global economic conditions. So the thing I like to say about this is the only thing that is certain is uncertainty, right? So how will the Fed react, right? So I thoroughly enjoy listening to Fed Powell Chair Powell speak, and he's always, one thing I realized is that he's very data dependent. He's very stoic and data dependent. I quite like him as a Fed chair. And yeah, he always says we'll look at the data, right? So, as you monitor what's going on in the markets, then you would start to see how the Fed reacts to that, right? So as it stands, it is unlikely that the FOMC will cut interest rates during their meeting on January 29th, right? We talked about that a little bit earlier. Fixed income markets currently project a high probability that interest rates will be held steady at 4.25% to 4.5%, and that a March-May cut in interest rates is still on the table, right? This is largely due to strong jobs data to a strong jobs data reading back in December of 2024, and this alleviates the pressure on the Fed to cut rates and turn their focus to inflation. However, recent CPI data showed, and I think that was last stream, that inflation is a lot more subdued than expected. Right? Further signs of disinflation would encourage the Fed to cut on March 19 or March 7th. The next reading comes from the Fed's primary inflation indicator, the core PCE price index, due at the end of the month. Right? So this is the big one to watch for, not so much the unemployment claims. And here are the key dates, right? So Fed interest rate decision, that's 2 p.m. Eastern, Jan 29th. It is 7 days away. US advanced GDP quarter-on-quarter is also releasing. That's on January 30th. Pre-New York, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. And finally, core PCE price index data is going to be coming out on the last day of January, Jan 31st at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, pre-New York. Right. So these are the 3 key news events that me and my team are going to be watching. Let's go to the annex. So here are some of the interesting things, yeah, from Trump's day one executive actions, yeah. So first and foremost, you have TikTok. You know, Trump very famously temporarily halted the ban, granting ByteDance more time to reach a deal to resolve national security concerns. ByteDance has said they repeatedly that they're not looking to sell. But I think as of today, there have been many suitors going after it. I think even Mr. Beast is throwing his towel in for a bid. Kevin O'Leary is throwing in for a bid as well. Will Elon Musk buy it? I think the courts would have a problem with that because he already owns X. Thank you, Elon, for X. I love it as a platform. Tariffs, right? So here's the interesting thing. On his campaign trail, he was screaming about potential 60% tariffs. And of course that shook a lot of people up. But on his first day, right, he went a little bit easy. And the only thing he asked, or rather the only thing he signed in, was that he called for agencies to study tariff policies and relationships with 3 targets, right? China, Mexico, and Canada, right? And on day one, the only 2 tariffs, the 2 countries that he's been very vocal about were Mexico and Canada, right? Of course, as of yesterday, day 2, he's also put China on that list, but at a potential 10% tariff, and which is very far from his 60% that he was talking about before. Establishing the External Revenue Service, right? So how they have the IRS that looks at internal revenue. This is external revenue, and their job is to collect taxes and tariffs from foreign countries, right? So the idea of signing this new service in, right, is a bit to show the world that he's dead serious, that he's setting up an entire agency to collect money, right? Is that going to come to pass? All these need to get cleared by the courts, yeah. Well, I think some of them he can go ahead with it, but quite a number of them he has to go through the courts. But he can sign it. Inflation emergency, right? So Trump directed departments and agencies to deliver emergency price relief, right, which includes the cost and supply of housing, lowering healthcare expenses, and eliminate climate policies that drive up energy prices. He's targeting energy really, really hard, right, as the primary cause of inflation, the cost of energy. And so, yeah, he is making a very hard stance at, tackling it. How this will be implemented and how this is, going to flesh out, I don't know, right? But I thought it's quite interesting that he recognizes that, the average American is facing, rising prices, right? Even though Chair Powell is time and time again saying, that prices have cooled off and have come down and all that good stuff. Okay. so from this point on, you start to see like the direction that he wants to take, right? So for under energy, Trump invoked emergency powers in a bid to boost domestic energy production by undoing all regulations that impose undue burdens on energy production and use, including mining and processing of non-fuel materials. So he's very pro traditional energy, right? He also plans to open up more oil and gas exploration, including offshore and in Alaska, and refill the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve to export American energy all over the world, right? So he's very pro gasoline and oil. Continued, he didn't end there. Trump's administration will also end leasing areas for massive wind farms. So that's the part we were talking about earlier. Because these wind farms apparently degrade the natural landscape and fail to serve American energy consumers. Here's an interesting one. Despite Tesla being a close supporter, Trump signed an order to terminate subsidies for electric vehicles and state emission waivers that limit the sales of gasoline-powered automobiles, right? So he's overturning, I think, was it 75? He's overturning a lot of Biden-era policies, right? Like in his first term, Trump will again withdraw the US from the 2015 Paris Agreement, but then this would take about a year to go into effect. Right? Immigration and deportation. This was quite scary, like just to even read about it, but he's ushering in new limits to both legal and illegal immigration. He declared a national emergency at the southern border. Wants to deploy the National Guard and armed forces to engage in border security, and also wants the wall to be completed. Although, let me be clear, right? Trump has repeatedly said his focus is on criminals that are crossing the border, right? But his executive order ending asylum targets millions of foreigners for expulsion, right? Migrant communities in the US are already bracing for immigration raids as of January 21, 2025. So that part is kind of scary. As a day one effect, Trump swiftly shut down the CBP One app, which is used by many asylum seekers to cross the border, leaving countless stranded with no appointments in place. So that's pretty dramatic. Federal workforce, essentially this is it's a freeze, right? He's done with people working from home. He wants employees to return to office as soon as practicable. Trump's administration will also freeze hiring for federal employees, excluding the military and immigration enforcement, because that's his primary focus. But yeah, stop hiring, right? Trump also signed an order to stop DEI efforts in the federal government and military, right? Regulatory freeze as well. All agencies have been ordered to pause issuing or publishing any new regulations until they've been reviewed by his administration or designate. Another one is that only two sexes, male and female. That's Trump's policy that he wants to become official, but more importantly, requiring agencies to give force to the definitions when applying statutes and regulations, right? Some of the other ones, withdrawal from the WHO, reinstating vaccine objectives. He also suspended refugee settlement. This is the asylum one we were talking about earlier. Looking at reinstating the death penalty, ending birthright citizenship, full pardon for the people involved in the siege of the US Capitol, and of course cartels were also designated as foreign terrorist organizations. And that brings me to the end of the brief. So that's a feel of Trump's day one. He's been very, very busy, right? And day two was no different. He's also been quite busy issuing new things. However, for day two, quite a number of interesting things. What do you call that? I think it was Barclays CEO in Davos. So Davos World Economic Forum in Davos is happening right now. So you have world leaders there. Is Trump going? I don't think so. He just, returned to the Oval Office. He's got lots to do. I'm sure he will send a designate. But yeah, over in Davos, a lot of this deregulation has inspired many of the people there. Even Barclays CEO was very optimistic and encourages both Europe and the UK to follow suit. Let me just fire up some of the research notes that we were talking about earlier. Yeah, Barclays CEO. Yeah, is optimistic about its US business and revival. Also optimistic about the revival in the art of deal making under President Donald Trump. And yeah, particularly excited about President Trump ushering in a more business-friendly environment amongst regulators, right? So that's generally the theme of January. Okay, what else do I want to cover? So you have Davos that's happening right now. We also have TikTok we covered, right? What else? Oh yeah. I think end of yesterday, Trump also announced. Oh, we talked about it on X a wee bit. No. Trump announced Stargate, which is a $500 billion venture over the next 4 years to improve, in partnership with OpenAI and Oracle and SoftBank, to build out massive AI infrastructure in the US, create more American jobs, and bring AI dominance back to the States, right? So that's been all the rage, and what have you. You essentially have a lot of bullish sentiment running into the tech scene, especially in the US. So that happened. Let's see. We talked about trade deficit with EU and the tariffs on China. When are these tariffs going to come into place? Currently, the date that Trump has been pushing is February 1st. So that's not that far away. But of course, that has to go through Congress, right? So after making all these executive orders, what are the next steps? The next step for his plans to remake Washington will need the help of others, right? And he needs to make sure that the Republicans will come together to, sign it all off. But yeah, current date that he is looking at is February 1st. Whether that comes to pass is a completely different story. Okay, so let's have a look now at what's going on in the market. S&P 500 is up 0.88%. NASDAQ is up 0.64 on the day. US 10-year Treasury yields have come down ever so slightly. Let me see. Yeah, on January 14th, which was just, a week ago or so. On January 14th, it was at its high at 4.79%, with, ever so approaching that 5% mark. Sorry, not 5%. The $5 mark. And now it's tapered down to 4.58. So that's generally good news. Everything's up today. FTSE 100 is up as well by 0.15%. Crude oil is up by 0.13%. Gold is currently at 27.66, up to 0.25%. And the euro holds at 104.25. Yeah. Oh, okay. So we've pushed up and we've come down. Very nice. Very nice. Let's see how we react at VWAP as this pans out. So those are the major things we are watching, right? Essentially, Trump has signed a lot of executive orders. Now is, how can we push it through, or his ambitious plans, how can we push it through Congress? So yeah, we talked about Stargate. Interestingly enough, Elon was on X saying, SoftBank doesn't have enough money. They've only raised like 10B for it. But we'll see how that pans out. Yeah, 500B project over the next 4 years is quite monumental. According to OpenAI, they will begin deploying 100B immediately, so that's pretty wild. JP Morgan's Jamie Dimon says US stock prices are kind of inflated. Effectively, the most important thing at hand, right, is like Trump can sign all kinds of things in, and there can be a lot of hype, but at the end of the day, like for example, for the stock market, right, it's earnings. Can earnings satisfy investors, buying at high prices, and continue to show growth? Its rate and inflation, like that would effectively impact the currency markets, and general economic outlook, right? Like, is the US economy showing signs of weakness? Is it starting to correct on itself? Because as we mentioned earlier, right, like one of the I think it's no secret that if you look at the SPX, like earlier when we showed the let's go to the monthly view, like, yeah, it's been raging forward since 2022, right? So the question is, is it hyperinflated? Is it, is there a need for a decent correction? I think there is cause for a decent correction, but we'll see when that comes around. Yeah, because I'll be completely transparent with you. Like, so let me show you on a daily. Show you on the daily chart. One of the setups that I was working on is this one. It's a bearish RSI divergence. Managed to catch one trade from here, but since Jan 13th, we've completely recovered, right? Every day, well, short of one day, but every day we're just pushing higher, and since, the SPX, S&P 500 has reclaimed the 6,000 mark, right? So yeah, I expect Chair Powell to talk about how the US economy is in great shape, and there is no reason to economy in good shape, US labor market in great shape, inflation is still proving to be a little bit sticky, speed bumps here and speed bumps there, so we're gonna hold, right, before continuing our cutting cycle. Again, he's got to factor in a lot of the implementation of policies coming out of the Trump administration, right? But in any case, JP Morgan, Chase and Co. CEO Jamie Dimon said that there are signs that the US stock market is overheated. In an interview at the World Economic Forum in Davos, he mentioned that asset prices are kind of inflated. You need fairly good outcomes to justify those prices. And that's what everyone's hoping for. I think having pro-growth strategies help make that happen, but there are negatives out there and they can tend to surprise you, being very mysterious, but essentially, key point, showing signs of overheating. Let's see. Yeah, so very similar to what Barclays CEO was talking about. Most finance executives see Trump, or at least the return of Trump, as a more business-friendly and growth-oriented president for the United States as compared to his predecessor, right? Which was Biden. Jamie Dimon went so far as to say that after the election in November, bankers were dancing in the streets. That's a little dramatic, but okay. But case in point, S&P 500 has climbed 4.6% since Trump was elected. So to be fair, that's quite an impact, yeah? In November, where's November? From which, here, yeah, there. Here. Well, that's not quite right. It's about 6% but nevertheless, you know, it has improved a lot. Let's see. For Jamie Dimon, growth is the only real solution to reduce deficits, right? He's concerned and remains cautious about global deficit spending, the potential for persistent inflation, and geopolitics. That pretty much sums up the world right now. So, okay. One thing I never understand is when analysts talk about animal spirits in the market, right? But for me, I read it as volatility, right? Because there are only two animal spirits, the bulls and the bears. So yeah. Okay, cool. So we talked about tariffs. We talked about Donald Trump's pro-growth deregulation kind of business-friendly environment or direction that he's taking. And of course, we talked about Stargate, right? Will it come to pass? I mean, it's a 4-year project. It's got plenty of, you know, it's got plenty of runway. But I think with SoftBank and OpenAI at the helm, you know, I think that's definitely not just, you know, something that Trump is just saying, but I actually think that it will be a good thing for the US, right? Okay, let me see. Is there any other key topics I want to cover before going into the markets? Because we are 17 minutes away from open. I missed my short on euro. Thank you. No problem. You're welcome. Let's go down. So anyway, like, this is just a chill Marketwatch session with me. If you want more on-demand macro analysis that is near real time, because we're watching the markets every day and have been watching the markets every day, do feel free to pick up your free trial of the Safehouse Access Pass, and yeah, there you get full access to our team. But okay, let's get into it. Yeah, on the 2-minute chart, let's look at Eurodollar first, right? So this is the short that I missed. That was a very nice back test of 104.30. But yeah, so this is what I call the EMAX setup. Okay, let's get into it. The EMAX setup is that here on the yellow line I have the 9 EMA, and then the orange line I have the 21 EMA, right? And essentially the EMAX setup, EMAX, EMAX, right, is how I write it, and EMAX essentially means you have an EMA cross with strength, and that crosses with VWAP. So this is where we are right now. VWAP on the 2-minute is currently standing at around 104.24.5, and the 9 has already crossed on the 2-minute, which means that the 5 is on the 5-minute is just about to cross, right? So generally, I want to have two time frames across, and when it crosses, I wait for the pullback, right? And if there's no pullback and it just rips right through, then it's okay. I missed it. That's perfectly fine, right? But generally for the setup, what I want to see is for a backtest of the 9 EMA after it has crossed on 2 time frames, right? So primarily for my intraday trading, I look at the 2-minute and the 5-minute, and I want to see that. Thereafter, I will go look at the 15-minute, right, just to make sure that I don't have any major levels that would get in the way of my, in this case, short, right? So what would that look like? Well, for starters, let's pull the 618 up, yeah? So as you can see here, we are currently approaching the 718. So if the Emax cross was somewhere around here, like that would be better and easier, because then I have a very clean target of 104.30. But right now, we are very close to the 718 and the 786, right? So the possibility of the euro bouncing back, you know, from reaching past the golden pocket or the 620 in this case, is still on the table, right? As a local level of resistance on my trading platform, I have my trading terminal, I have it at 104.42, which effectively translated to here would be somewhere around here, 104.17 half, right? So do I want to short it now? Absolutely not. I want to wait for the cross to happen, go for the back test, and then boom, go in. See, I think one of the things I am constantly telling the traders in the community is that, like, you gotta be very, at least how I was trained before, was that you gotta be very clear what the parameters of your setups are in your playbook, and then after that be very, very mechanical with it, right? And then go and test. Like, for example, one of the questions I got was, do you wait for the pullback to the 9 or the 21, right? So the 9 is shorter than the 21, right? So that's why it's nearer to price. Of course, the 9 has produced a decent amount of false positives for this setup, right? But of course a 21 would be much cleaner. Like, for example, if the EMAs right now, if let's say they cross and then there's a back test that reaches all the way into 21, and then there's a very fast continuation to the downside, like, then that would be like a very perfect kind of variant of the setup, right? But the reality of it is it doesn't always play out the way you want, which is why you have to be mechanical about it. And then, you know, every trade that you take, every time you run this setup, you got to track it, you've got to journal it down, and then from there, you know, after doing 30 Emax setups, then review, like, you know, how can you further tweak it, right? And so these parameters that I use, that's been working out for me pretty decently, you know, come from a lot of this, you know, stress testing of the setup, right? So yes, that's one potential trade I'm looking at. Let's look at SPX on the 2-minute. It looks very, very choppy on the way up, right? But we have fallen under with strength. At least we gapped under. What time was this? This is still pre-New York. Yeah, 11 minutes to bell, by the way. Yeah, so as you can see, we have the EMAs flipping. EMAs are just the regular EMA is very good for trending markets, but not so much reversal. So I generally don't like it when they flip here and flip there. But given, you know, the amount of bullishness that has been in the market for this time, we have a support zone here, right? Which by the time, if this pushes to the downside, then yeah, VWAP should be just under this support zone. So potentially, if the bulls fail to claim 60.87, then yeah, potentially you could see something like this to retest this support level to see if the bulls are still there, right? So that's primarily what I'm looking at for SPX. We are 10 minutes from open, so you know that's when SPX will kick into action proper. Let's go back to euro dollar because my left eye is on the trading terminal. So as you can see, we are currently at the 9 EMA on the 2-minute, and the 5-minute we're still far. So I am still very far from playing out this setup. Why? Because it has not crossed yet, right? So we'll give this some time to simmer, right? If the bears are very aggressive, the moment the 5-minute 9 EMA pushes down, it might just shoot all the way down, right? But I would rather sacrifice profit, and I don't know how to explain this. The whole drama around like, oh no, I got it right kind of thing. Like, I don't know, I've been in this business for some time, man. Like, sensationalism, yes, that's the word, right? Like, I couldn't care less to be sensational. The only thing I care about is bringing in the dollars, right? So because that's your job, you know, when your full-time job is that of a professional trader, then your job is to bring in the dollars, not to, you know, be some kind of superstar hero and stroke your ego, right? So yeah, in that respect, like, I would rather sacrifice profits, right, of how much I could earn, and have confirmation on the move, which is to say that I want to see bulls getting creamed. I want to see bears kicking in with strength and volume, which is why we have volume below, to bring price lower, right, to extend the move. So anyway, yeah, that's euro dollar. Let's have a look at the DXY, right? So on the DXY, on a 5-minute, we're starting to see that cross start to happen. 9 has already crossed, 21 has not. Let's go down to the 2-minute, and that's already crossed, but it's starting to flatten out a little bit. I don't like that, but at least on the 5, it's still showing a very strong trajectory, right? So now I need to flip this to support, and that's the 107.5 that we were talking about earlier during the brief. So watching that quite closely. So yeah, if you look at it, euro dollar DXY, as you well know, is inverse relationship, right? So if this holds, 21 crosses over, back tests, and pushes up, that would produce your push down on euro. How deep? Not sure, right? But at least to the 786. And if it takes out these lows, then that will be quite an extended move. Is it possible? It is very possible, because if you look at this fib, let's say we just take it from roughly around here. There's no point being completely exact, but yeah, if we take it all the way from down here, then as you can see, your golden pocket 618 is right around here, right? Which would line up to be this level. So I'm just going to draw this in right now at 103.85 right? So I'm going to take out the fib because I don't need that. But yeah, if we see an extended move, then that could hit all the way down here for a fib retracement. Otherwise, you have a support zone waiting for you right here. Yep. So let's let this breathe for a little bit. Gold. Let's look at gold, right? What's happening at gold? Gold, VWAP is holding gold up really, really well. It's quite scary when a lot of the conversations that I've been having with friends, they've been sending me messages on like, everyone's talking about buying gold now, should I buy gold now? And then I just screenshot this and send it to them. And I'm like, dude, it's gone up so much, you know? I mean, just take for instance 11th of December CPI low and high that was created, right? Look at how decently well. So this was the market call we had previously. This was, oh no, sorry, this is not the market call. This was the training program I had for one of our new traders. She is a financial advisor who wants to get into trading. So I've been coaching her. I don't actually usually coach, but yeah, I've been training her myself. So these were the notes. But yeah, during that call, the market call that I had for her was, I think it was here, was, you know, it's looking to break, right? Take the highs and go, and take the highs it did, and there was no look back, right? December CPI lows and highs played out really, very well, right? And since we had that this level that I pulled from SR level that I pulled from the weekly, on the weekly time frame, so I just put that so that I know that it's a higher time frame level, and that has played out so nicely, right? But the point I'm trying to make is gold has reached so much further, right? So okay, I'll clean this later, it's too much work. So yeah, that's journey for gold. As long as VWAP holds, man, you know, as long as VWAP holds, there's more upside potential, but I am not very confident about it, to be honest, unless something scares people insane, right? But if you look at this, you have a very clear resistance zone here, right? Very nice and clear, and that fight is between this and VWAP, right? RSI, is RSI showing anything different? Well, not really. I mean, another setup that I enjoy using is the RDIV, or short for RSI divergence, and that one I use for reversals. And it's a very simple thing. It's nothing fancy. It essentially looks at the loss of momentum, right? So if price is driving up and up and up, forms a new high but doesn't form a new high on RSI, then, you know, if there's a possibility that, you know, it's setting up for a reversal. Again, I like to see it on both time frames, 2 time frames, not just one. So that's where it's similar to Emax. But then, yeah, you know, backtest trend line and push down. If it happens, I'll go through that. I see on my trading terminal that euro dollar is starting to move, so let's have a look at this. So as you can see, we have some reaction. It's not the cleanest move down, to be honest, because you have wiggly EMAs, right? Which means the bulls are fighting to push this back up. It's at VWAP. I have a rule, I don't like to trade at VWAP. Of course, then your question would be like, then how do you take the Emax setup, right? And I was like, yeah, you know, usually when it crosses first, then I go for the pullback, then I get in. So yeah, if there isn't any clean opportunities for the setups that I use, then I don't get in, right? Which is why I get to hang out here and chit chat with you guys, right? Are there people watching? I don't know. I honestly don't. I'm not that savvy, but I enjoy talking through it. And if you're enjoying, please hit the like button. I guess it helps the video out. And if you want to hang out more and trade together more, because you might see opportunities that I don't, right? And I might see opportunities that you don't. I'm just a trader like you, you know? So yeah, get your free trial, Safehouse Access Pass, link is in the description below. And yeah, we'll see you on Discord, where, you know, we talk trading all day. Yeah. Free of noise. I think that's really important. We had one guy, I'm not gonna name him because out of respect, I don't like to shame people, but we had one guy who came in with the free trial. Spoke to him at first and seemed like a pretty decent guy, you know. Also has had experience trading for some time, but he brought with him a lot of noise, you know what I mean? Like the very noise that we sought to eliminate from the Safehouse community, because here we are all traders, right? And our job is to essentially, you know, just make money. If you want to like chit chat and stuff, like, it's fine, you know, but once you start having people who try to validate their opinions by, you know, showing you like, oh, look, I made I don't know, X $1,000 on this trade on a small account. And I'm like, holy Christ, dude, you know, like, how over leveraged are you? Like, I know how to take a bet. You want to take a bet? Let's put 10 mil here, right? And then just flip a coin and call up and down. Like, that's not trading, that's gambling, right? So it's not something that we condone. And so, yeah, you know, his free trial ended. And then, as with all free trials, you know, we terminated it, right? So yeah, generally we refrain from having these sorts in the community. But hey, check it out. 2 minute Emax is just about crossing, right? And then we had a very solid push. Why? Welcome to New York Open, ladies and gentlemen. I don't have a bell on YouTube, but I have a bell on Discord when we do it on Discord, right? So yeah, did I want to get in here? Absolutely not. Because that would screw up my journaling, right? Like, I want this to cross first. Let's have a look at the 5 minute. Where we at? That's my VWAP. Come on. Load my VWAP. There we are. Yeah, that's very nice. See, that's the 9 crossing on the 5 minute, right? Don't forget we have a level here earlier, right? So I want to see these two cross first, and then I'll start getting it. But this is just an example of how I anticipate and gear up for an Emax setup. If you found that useful, do like and subscribe. And yeah, so if you want to trade together with other independent traders who are focused on the markets, then yeah, you know, claim your free trial at Safehouse Access Pass. Link is in the description below. On the 2 minute on euro dollar now, wow, look at that. Yeah, this looks the same on my trading terminal. So on the 2 minute we have a successful cross. Brilliant. All right, now give me 5. Now give me 5 and I'm in. That's gonna take a while, right? So what's gonna happen now is that it's taking out some lows here, but I'm gonna let this develop a little bit more before getting in. But on a 2 minute it looks pretty ripe, right? And then from here we start mapping out the ORs, and then we go for the third setup in our playbook, or not our, but like at least my playbook is orb, right? Or OR breaks. So OR breaks are essentially when price forms the opening range and then breaks out of it, back test and go, right? So I only have, those are my 3 favorite setups. Outside of that, traditionally I used to trade tempo, but then I used to do that on a 10-second chart. But now that I'm retail, I don't necessarily have clean access to that. So yeah, I mean, just use 3 setups and move along, right? So anyway, yeah, it's been a long day. I need to start to focus up with the team for New York Open. So I hope you guys enjoy yourself. If you're watching this post stream, thanks for hanging around. If you have questions or you would like to tap our thoughts on some of the news that's coming out of the US regarding Trump, yeah, we'll see you on Discord. That's probably the easiest way to reach us. And over there we can talk about it. Yeah, sounds good. All right, thanks for joining. I'll see you next Wednesday. These streams are on X and on YouTube, and they're just general chill Marketwatch streams. So yeah, I'll see you every Wednesday. Unless I can't make it, I'll probably notify on Discord. Sometimes I also had to take a break and, you know, go on holiday. There's the backtest of the 9 on the 2 minute. I'm just waiting for the 5 so that I don't inadvertently trigger my own, you know, impulsiveness. But yeah, so join us in Discord for more updates, and look forward to see you there. All right, I'm going to go make myself a coffee and get right into it. Take it easy, guys. I'll see you next Wednesday. Ciao.